to reflect reality. The President is going to deliver the message, then we call on our allies to support. Not the other way around. You don't support something you don't know. The President must deliver the message, then we call on our allies to deliver the message you don't support. They will know what they support, and they know they will also isolate what they can support. But we are hoping they will support everything. But they will support a message from the President. So, Comrade President, we are going to call on you to deliver the January 8th statement on behalf of the National Executive Committee. 112 years old. You know, it's an old organization. 112 years. It's not a young organization. Kuba khawuqule wayikhatha short ngolu hlobo kwenze njani and Viva ANC, viva! Viva ANC, viva! Ingani ngiyabona linyenti lethu sifuna kulala siguquke sesikhohliwe lapho siqhamuka khona ne-African National Congress. Sikhohliwe yini ukuthi wamemeda phisika isaka sema wathi ama-Afrika ahlangane abumbana bayimbumbe abasibe sinye ahlangane aphila impilo yebuntu. Sakhohlwa yini ukuthi lisiko lami nesiko lakho lisho ukuthi singema-Afrika. Sikhohliwe yini ukuthi injongo ye-African National Congress bekukuhlanganisa tiveta se-Afrika ukuthi tiphile tibamthibi munye. Ake ngithathe nginibuyisele emuva nga-1911 lapho kwamenyetwa khona
Free the Palestine. They are one of us. Remember, they are Africans and we are one nation. We are one family. The family of Mama Africa. Happy birthday to the ANC, African National Congress, and happy 30th anniversary to the democratic system of South Africa. Long live ANC, long live. Lolo haya lengonjo ngingumthenzelo hlaba usamila imvuthwane lebulala ngaphandle kwesikhali imamba lehlatane lengibona bulawe lo shitela ngedona ejahembini ngoba kukuthi emuva ingana ngibuyele emuva sitoti bunu ngilokosho ngomobholo kubuye ngimoyitene nelithando ngisikhathe kwaze emaveni ngilitapha lemhlaba weAfrika ngiwase Mpumalanga ngimpumalanga sikotha ngingaphuthasele ngingasihle sangoba ngingosatane ngiye ngibike ngisebele ngisenge.
Amandla! Amandla! Viva ANC! Viva! Viva ANC! Viva! Viva COSATU! Viva! Viva SACP! Viva! Forward with Sanko, forward! Malibongwe! Igama lamakhosikazi. Roar, young lions, roar! Roar, young lions, roar! Forward with the ANC Veterans League, forward! Forward with the ANC Veterans League, forward! Forward Umkhonto Wesizwe Liberation War Veterans, forward! Amandla! Away, two! All power! Amandla! Comrade Gwede Mantashe, the National Chairperson of the African National Congress, Comrade Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of the African National Congress, Comrade Secretary General Fikile Mbalula of the African National Congress, Comrade Nomvula Mukonyane, the First Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Marupini Ramokgopa, the Second Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, members of the African National Congress National Executive Committee, Comrade David Mabuza, the former Deputy President of the ANC and former Deputy President of the Republic. Isitwalandwe, Comrade Sophie de Brain, Comrade Solima Paila, the General Secretary of the SACP, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, the President of COSATU, Comrade Richard Chikungo, the President of Sanko, Comrade Snuki Zikalala, the President of the ANC Veterans League, Umama Utolashe, the President of the ANC Women's League, Comrade Malachi, the President of the ANC Youth League, Kgoshi Mokoena, the President of Contralesa, representatives of the various leagues who are here with us, and the leaders and representatives of Umkhonto Wesizwe Liberation War veterans. Let me be clear. Yona Umkhonto Wesizwe yempela ke le. Umkhonto Wesizwe Liberation War veterans. Veterans and stalwarts of our movement, members of the diplomatic corps, leaders of the religious sector, traditional leaders, comrades and friends, and the people of our beloved country, South Africa. This year, 2024, marks the 112th anniversary of the formation of the People's Movement, the African National Congress, an organization that led the struggle for freedom and continues to spearhead the tireless national effort to transform our country, South Africa, into a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic and prosperous society. The birthday of the ANC is an occasion to celebrate, to be happy, to celebrate the distinct legacy, the proud heritage and the achievements and the best attributes of the South African nation as a whole. We honor all patriotic South Africans, men and women, urban and rural, young and old, and successive generations of freedom fighters who served our nation selflessly and tirelessly, as well as unconditionally during the different phases of the National Democratic Revolution for our country's liberation and self-determination. We gather here, comrades, in the city of Mbombela, in the beautiful province of Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun, the place that have all the beautiful adornments that Providence has bestowed, not only on this province, but on our country as well. We are depicted as one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and we do find that beauty here in Mpumalanga. You go to the Kruger National Park, you see the beauty of South Africa. You go to God's window, you see the beauty of South Africa. Here in Mpumalanga, Comrade Mandla tells me, as I also greet him, that here in this province you also have 3 rondavels. I've never been there, but he says I should go there one day. Comrades, up front, we want to thank our comrades here in Mpumalanga for welcoming all of us and for organizing this beautiful celebration. Let's applaud them. Masibashayeleni izandla. Comrade Mandla, Comrade Chirwa, and our premier here, Comrade Mutsweni. Thank you for welcoming all of us in this warm manner. We have spent a week here going from place to place in Mpumalanga, and we found that the ANC is alive. The ANC yaphila kule province. We thank you for that and we applaud you for the work that you are doing to keep the ANC alive in this province. We are here to celebrate our past, to chart the future and outline the tasks for the period ahead. We are mindful that we meet in a complex and difficult moment, both globally and here at home. At a global level, the world is facing serious risks, multiple crises. These include rising inequality and poverty in many places in the world, the rising cost of living, the economic instability, as well as trade wars that are taking place, as well as the geopolitical conflicts that continue to destabilize various countries and the livelihoods of many. Given these many challenges, in 2024, we will focus working together with the Alliance and all sectors of society to accelerate reconstruction of our economy, to deliver quality basic services, infrastructure, renew the ANC and society. We will also continue with our work to fight crime and corruption, to rejuvenate our nation and contribute towards a better Africa and a better world. All these tasks will gain greater momentum as our country marks 30 years of democracy and freedom. Working together with all our people, we have made significant progress over the last 30 years to put in place the building blocks of a national democratic society as set out in the Freedom Charter. The gains of freedom and the achievements of our young democracy are many. I will just highlight 5 broad categories, and these include the adoption of a transformative constitution that guarantees fundamental freedoms and human rights to all South Africans. Our constitutional architecture, comrades, 30 years old, has continued to hold our country together and to make sure that what we did not have under apartheid rule, we have continued to have in the past 30 years, and it continues to mature, it continues to gain traction, and it's something that we should be proud about, because not many countries can boast of the democratic architecture that we have in South Africa. We are one of the very few countries in the world that has the type of constitution that we have. In fact, many countries look to us as South Africa to emulate, to copy from us, and they often say, we envy you South Africans that you have the best constitution in the world. So 30 years later, we can be proud of that, comrades. It's a great achievement for the ANC-led government that we have such a democratic dispensation. The second area is the expansion of basic services and infrastructure to millions of our people who now have access to housing, to better roads and roads that are becoming better, to education, where there is now universal access to health, which is improving, to water, to energy, and income support through a very progressive social security net. The third one, broad area, is the launching the first phase of economic transformation by introducing laws and policies that have improved workers' rights, that have brought about employment equity, and that have also improved or introduced black economic empowerment, as well as investment in infrastructure, public employment programs, and achieving higher levels of economic growth. The other one is the establishment of a democratic state, having institutions in accordance with our constitution, like the Auditor General, the Independent Electoral Commission, the Public Protector, and a number of others. These are institutions that we really did not have 30 years ago. We now have them. We must cherish them. We must defend them. We must advance them because they support our democracy. The fifth one is how our country has taken its place amongst the community of nations, advancing the African agenda, multilateralism, solidarity, and a peaceful and just world order. So the democratic South Africa of today is very different from the lived experience of apartheid South Africa 30 years ago. There are those who say nothing has changed, but they also know that they are not telling the truth. Bayatanda noma abatandi, the South Africa of today is different and vastly improved from the South Africa of 30 years ago. And that has been brought about by the African National Congress. And that represents the resolve that Nelson Mandela took when he took the oath at the Union Buildings as the first democratically elected president. South Africa today, you like it or you don't like it, even if you hate it, it is there because the African National Congress has brought about real transformation in this country. Please accept it and swallow it, because that is the reality. Over the last 30 years, the ANC-led government has made tremendous strides in empowering the women of our country. It is largely due to the ANC's decision that women must be equally represented in all public institutions, that currently more than 45% of the seats in Parliament are held by the women of South Africa. That is what the ANC has led in. In apartheid South Africa, fewer than 3% of the MPs of the apartheid parliament were women. Today, siyaziqhenya ngokuthi 45% and above are women, and we must now ensure that it is 50% and above. Oh mama, mabangene eParlamente, bakhokhele lesizwe. In a democratic South Africa, women are no longer second-class citizens. You will remember how oppression was more sharp-ended when it came to the women of our country. They were oppressed because they were black. They were oppressed because they belonged to the working class. And they were oppressed, very seriously oppressed, because they were women. Now we have said oppression must be taken off, and women must no longer be second class. Our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our grandmothers are not second class or third class citizens. Sibafuna la bakhokhele futhi babe inkokheli zethu. Over the last 30 years, we have seen another wonderful phenomenon of young people who have benefited from our transformative programs. A very vital part of the work that we have done to build our nation has been to ensure that we empower our young people. Young people themselves have played a vital role in shaping democratic social order that we have today. And I guess they've been inspired by what Otatu Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Bonke, who started the ANC Youth League, started in the 40s. They are following in those footsteps. Our nation has immensely benefited from the creative energies and the real raw energy of young people. Their campaigns and advocacies on issues such as democracy, education, entrepreneurship, health and economic development, research and innovation have been quite impactful in many, many ways. And we want to applaud the young people of our country, because with democracy, we unleashed the energy of young people. The social agency of the youth also finds expression in sport, in arts and cultural industries, and they have excelled in various areas of in the social sector, from the rise of Kwaito music in the early 90s. I could never dance to Kwaito, but today they are also excelling in Amapiano, and they are trying to teach me to dance to Amapiano. And this is what the young people of our country have really excelled in. And we thank them. We thank them because Amapiano today is the global music system of the whole globe. Uthole nabelungu Europe bedansela Amapiano. I'm going to teach the national chairperson to dance to Amapiano as well, as soon as I've learned it myself. So we thank them. Our artists have also excelled in a number of other areas. Our country will continue to rely on the youth to reimagine the future and to rejuvenate our nation. The young people of our country are our treasure, and we saw it right from the beginning. As the ANC was formed, the majority of people who formed the ANC were young. When the ANC was made much more of an action-oriented organization, it was young people. And in '76, they are the young people who led and took the struggle to another level. And we thank the young people today who are taking us to another level. And the ANC Youth League is leading also in that process. The ANC-led government is investing enormous effort and resources to stimulate and grow our economy so that it can create jobs. The provision, comrades, at the social level of housing to millions of South Africans is one of the great achievements of our democracy. Through the provision of houses, of subsidies, and service sites, government has managed to provide 4.7 million homes to our people. I know of no country, certainly on our continent and in other continents as well, that has built houses, 4.7 million, and given them to our people mahala, and just say, na indlu, signika yona mahala. Forward with the democratic government, forward. Nearly 2 million women are now the proud owners of state-provided houses. Under apartheid, comrades, all women were denied the right to benefit from state housing, and black women could not own land or houses. All that has changed now. It has changed because the ANC-led government has brought about fundamental change in areas such as housing. 89% of households in our country now have access to water, while 85% of South African homes have access to electricity. There are possibly people who don't want us to mention these things, but we will mention them because these things mean age 15 and 24 years is able to read and to write. And adult literacy now stands at 85%, up from 64% in 1996. Soon, we are going to be receiving the matric pass rate results. And I am sure that the results of our matriculants are further going to show us the progress that we have made in education, because we've been making steady progress every year, proving that the investment that we are putting in educating our young people is bearing fruit. As it is now, we spend 48 billion rand every year almost to support our young people who are in colleges and universities. And we do this because we are seeking to deal with the future of our country. Under apartheid, the law prevented black people from entering skilled occupations. Today, we have a growing number of black skilled professionals. It was a joy for me just 2 days ago to have the ANC Youth League taking me to a function where I met 2,000 young people who were all expressing their gratitude to what the democratic government has done to give them skills. Some of them are now aeronautical engineers. They told me that they can now build the engines of planes. They repair them. Some of them are civil and construction engineers. Some of them are medical surgeons. Some of them are plumbers. Some of them are deeply trained in various other skills, veterinarian surgeons and scientists. So many interventions have been introduced because the ANC government has been seeking to improve the lives of our people. Our work in promoting universal access to quality healthcare has made a tremendous impact. This includes free access to healthcare for pregnant women and children under 5, to reduce infant and maternal mortality, and sustained investment in building a very robust healthcare system, where today we had our parliament adopting the national health insurance, which is now, after 30 years of struggle, going to be introduced and signed into law so that there can be free access to health care. So this, comrades, demonstrates the commitment of the ANC government to ensure that we do indeed improve the lives of our people. And this we shall continue to do, whether they like it or not. There has been enormous opposition to the introduction of measures such as the national health insurance. I can say that we are going to proceed to ensure that the struggles that have been waged over the many years to achieve this monumental progress will go ahead. So, comrades, we have, as the ANC-led government, sought only to improve the lives of our people. And we have also seen improvements in, amongst other areas, the rollout of comprehensive HIV/AIDS programs, where more than 5.8 million people are on antiretroviral treatment, the biggest in the world, where we are keeping our people alive and dealing with a disease that used to be a killer disease in the past. The ANC-led government is restoring life to our people. We have also seen how the incidence of tuberculosis, TB, is continuing to come down. And this is through the efforts of the ANC-led government. As part, comrades, of all this, the ANC-led government will continue, yes, to invest in improving the lives of our people. Despite persistent challenges, the South African economy, which has been rather weak over quite a number of years and has not grown at the level that we have always wanted. However, that economy has expanded over the past 30 years. The number of South Africans who are now in employment have increased from 8 million. When we got into office, there were only 8 million South Africans who were in formal employment. Namhlanje, we have 16.7 million South Africans who are now employed. And this happens because of the management of the economy by the ANC-led government. We have put in place policies and laws that have enabled our economy to expand. For instance, just in the agricultural sector, we've seen our agricultural sector almost doubling in value, and we now have to concentrate on getting more and more black people to become key players in the agricultural sector of our economy. But we also need to deal with the issue of dispossession of land, because that is where the real challenge continues to be. And our policies are aimed at achieving precisely that. When it comes to the condition of workers, workers today in South Africa have much better working conditions than they did in 1994. Since 1994, we have introduced basic conditions of employment. We have also introduced the minimum wage. And this is where COSATU, our ally, was most effective to make sure that 6 million workers who were earning less than 3,500 rand a month have their salaries increased on an ongoing basis. We now have a national minimum wage, which is going to support those 6 million and more workers. So we thank COSATU. Forward with COSATU, forward. Forward with the workers, forward. And we continue, comrades, to be committed to collective bargaining and to also improve the rights of workers and also trade unions. We want to see our trade unions becoming stronger and stronger. And when it comes to collective bargaining, we want the collective bargaining system, yes, to remain strong. And because there's always competition between workers and employers, there will always be conflicts, there'll always be tensions, and we say we have managed to address those contradictions, and we will continue to do so. Now, comrades, we must continue to celebrate these achievements and make sure that the gains of freedom that were realized through our progressive social policies are defended and advanced further in the decade ahead. The ANC has remained loyal to the pursuit of the national democratic revolution and also advancing Africa's renaissance. There have been mistakes along the way, and there have been missteps, because in life, nothing is ever perfect. You make mistakes, you make missteps, you stumble, but that is the nature of life. The important thing is whether we are moving forward. And we as the African National Congress can testify to the fact that we've continued to move forward. We've continued to see improvement. The lives of our people have been improving since 1994. We have not been stuck in one place. We've always moved forward, maybe at times going one step back, but always moving forward by 3 steps. And that is how we have prosecuted our national democratic revolution. And because we are dealing with complex transformation processes, but all our programs and initiatives and actions, comrades, have been aimed at transforming South Africa to eradicate the stubborn legacy of apartheid, of colonialism, and yes, of patriarchy as well. We have had to take steps to address these 3 challenges, and we have been making progress, and we will continue making progress. Bayathanda noma bathandi, thina siyaqhuba siyaphambili. They can stand on the wayside, baqhube bathi nywe 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 nywe, thina siyaqhuba siyaphambili, because we are the African National Congress. We shall, comrades, never betray the vision that was set out and espoused by our forebears in the Freedom Charter. Go Freedom Charter, comrades, asijigi. Our forebears gave us a clear line of march, and we are going to remain committed until, as they said, these ideals that are set out in the Freedom Charter are achieved, and we shall work together side by side until we have attained those ideals. Now, comrades, the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves on the 30th anniversary of our freedom, we have to ask ourselves whether South Africa's transformation from an apartheid, colonial, patriarchal, and divided past may be halted, whether it will even be reversed, or whether it will be diverted, or whether the democratic renewal and national rejuvenation will, in the end, gain impetus. Those are the key questions that the National Executive Committee asked itself as it issued this statement that I am delivering. We know that there are social and political forces that are working very hard to undermine the gains of our freedom that we've made over 3 decades. They want to stop the people's march to a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous country. The anti-transformation forces are converging in pacts. They are forming various pacts. Busbies are all packed, this, packed that, and so forth. While at the same time, they are seeking to fragment the forces for change through splinter groups and smaller parties that want to contest the ANC. Another anti-transformation tactic is to ensure that the ANC is locked up in internal struggles that will weaken the ANC and destroy it from within. They actively encourage rebel breakaway groupings to erode the support base of the ANC. Often these comrades start as factional groupings, factional conflicts within our movement. But when the movement pushes ahead with a program of renewal, they then start changing into opposition parties that are as opposed to the ANC as the right-wing opponents of transformation. In fact, they even become worse than those right-wing opposition parties because they come through as real snakes, snakes that are ready to bite our people. Some of these parties masquerade as more radical than the ANC, but their revolutionary sounding slogans and rhetoric cannot hide the reality that they have common cause with the forces opposing transformation. The shared goal of all these forces is to deprive the ANC of the ability to use state power to continue with the process of change and transformation. The ANC-led alliance and the broad progressive movement remains the only reliable force that is capable and that has a tradition of uniting and working with various social forces to advance the national democratic agenda. Unique among political formations in South Africa, the ANC has been able to work with workers, to work with women formations, youth progressive organizations and professionals, intellectuals, business people, middle strata, faith-based organizations, cultural activists, traditional leaders, and various community-based and non-governmental organizations to achieve social and economic change. So, should make us more determined this year to succeed in building a better life for all and to be more deliberate and resolute in renewing the ANC. So mina ke ngithi asibasabi mabeze ngobuningi ngoba asibasabi futhi siyabafuna and sizobangena ngoba asisabi lutho futhi asinawo umona sethi wozani nizosithola kahle. Now, comrades, with all this, as they are plotting and ganging against this people's movement that has brought so much transformation to the lives of our people, what then should be our tasks? The National Executive Committee has decided that the tasks announced in 2023 in the January 8th statement should remain the focus of our movement in 2024. Given that our country will hold the 7th national and provincial elections this year, our added overarching priority is to work for a decisive ANC election victory so that it may obtain a clear mandate. Comrades, we are working and going to work for a clear victory. When they look at us, but you know, iphelile ANC. When they look at us, but we are going to get less than 50%. Abanye bathi we are even going to get 30%. Logo kukhulunywa ngabantu abangasazi, abangayazi ANC kaLuthuli, ANC kaMandela, ANC aka John Langalebale Dube, sethi wozani nizosithola kahle futhi siyanfuna ukuthi siye ekhethweni ukuthi we must be able to separate those who are able to govern this country and those who are not. Because bona babona ngathi hayi kulula, they'll be able to govern this country. Oh, mame. Wozani nizosithola kahle. Now, comrades, the ANC is ready to launch a formidable campaign that will engage the citizens of our country in every sector of society to seek a decisive mandate from our people who continue to love the ANC. As I go through the length and the breadth of the country, whether in the rural areas, nor in the townships, all I ever meet are the people who say we love the African National Congress. We want you to continue, despite all the challenges that you face, to continue with the work that you are doing. So the ANC role in working with our people to liberate South Africa from the yoke of apartheid and to vastly improve the lives of millions over the last 30 years cannot be matched by any other party. No party, comrades, has both the clear vision for a better and more equal society and the capability to achieve it than the African National Congress. And uzababona mabekhipha ama manifesto wabo, they will wait first to copy from the ANC manifesto. Bayakopa. Bazaba bakhuluma lento manifesto ye-ANC. And when they come with their own manifestos, it's half-baked ideas that will never work for the people of our country. So the ANC remains the party of choice for all who seek to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic and prosperous South Africa. The frustrating experience that we have had with dysfunctional coalition governments has shown that these coalitions, comrades, these coalitions, they really don't work for our people, but they work for those political deal makers and those who are intent on advancing their own interests. These coalitions have led to service delivery weaknesses where development suffers and in a number of cases grinds to a halt. Replicating this bitter experience of total chaos, instability and dysfunctionality at a national and provincial level will be a total disaster for our country. So, comrades, this is where we don't want to go. Because if you have a coalition, you are just bubble gum, you are patching izinto ezingakwazi ukuthi zipetcheke. So all the ANC needs is an outright victory. So that is why we must go all out and work for an outright victory. And we must embark on a campaign led by the ANC, working with our alliance, that will ensure that we win outright. So we call on our members and supporters to go all out, comrades, to campaign vigorously for an outright victory. And I will also be out there together with members of the National Executive Committee. We will be out there in your local areas, in your provinces, in the rural areas, in the streets of our townships. We will work with you to attain this victory. So, comrades, we will be launching our election manifesto next month, where we will set out a clear vision and a program for taking our country forward. Today, in this January 8th statement, we just set out the key priorities, the real program that we are going to implement or put out, and the clear vision of where we want our country to go in the next 5 years will be set out in the manifesto which we will be launching next month. The other important task is that we should intensify the renewal of the African National Congress. Our 53rd conference defined the principal objective of renewal. The 55th conference also said that renewal must include the renewal of the alliance partners as well, and the broad progressive movement. Central to our renewal project is building the capacity of the ANC to lead meaningful social and economic transformation. And the ANC should also be able to lead the process of economic transformation and restructuring, making sure that the ownership, the management, and the control of our economy, as well as the distribution of economic opportunities, continues to retain a racial, gender, and geographic concentration. So the NEC has directed that the newly established Renewal Commission should develop a very well-developed program of renewal for action in 2024. And there are 5 key elements of our renewal program. And I will not go into details over them. Firstly, the renewal program should be about the quality of an organization that we are, as well as the caliber of its membership and the caliber of its cadership and the caliber of its leadership. It should also be about ensuring that we call upon the various components of our movement, as in the ANC Women's League, the Youth League, the ANC Veterans League, Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, and Sanko, who we are very pleased held successful national conferences last year to also make a meaningful contribution to the life of the African National Congress in a way that will affect, yes, the people of our country, abahlali, yes, the women of our country, and yes, the young people of our country. And we commit ourselves to work with our alliance partners, the South African Communist Party, the Congress of South African Trade Unions, the South African National Civic Organization, to ensure that we have a strategic repositioning of our alliance. And of course, this repositioning must involve how we reconfigure the way we work and how we are able to embark on programs that are not only going to result in an outright victory for the ANC, but also are going to speed up the transformation process. And we look forward to the contribution of a united and renewed civic organization. The second element is the renewal that deals with the member of the ANC, what type of member we should have. And we call upon ANC structures to mobilize all South Africans to combat the demons of racism, tribalism, ethnic chauvinism, and related intolerances in our country and in our organization. This is important to also improve the quality of the membership that we have. Our members must be underpinned by a high sense of discipline, ideologically, intellectually, as well as organizationally and technically. The third element is about, yes, ensuring that there is high discipline in our organization. There must be no compromise of the fundamental matters of organizational discipline and integrity. The fourth one deals with the quality of our leaders and public representatives. The NEC has appointed the ANC Electoral Committee and adopted stringent and transparent rules and guidelines for the election of leaders and selection of candidates and public representatives. The reconstruction of our economy is one of those key elements that we need to focus on to create a prosperous society where people are free from poverty and where the ANC government does tremendous work building on the last 30 years. The ANC remains committed, comrades, to advancing all these areas to ensure that the economy grows, there's land redistribution, and what the ANC government has done to transform our economy in the last 30 years is something that we need to continue with. We know that much still needs to be done, but we will continue with the work to ensure that social and economic advancement of women is deepened and that young people are given the opportunities that they have. And we call, particularly in the private sector, We call on the private sector to ensure that women are empowered economically and that young people are also given an opportunity. And that, for instance, when young people seek jobs, the issue of experience should not be a barrier. We should employ young people to give them the experience, not ask for experience before we employ them. That is fundamentally important, because otherwise, where will they get the experience when we don't employ them so that they can get the experience? So we want the issue of experience to fall away. Open the doors to employment so that young people can get jobs. And yes, of course, the issue of jobs should also go beyond those who are 35 years and older, because they too must never feel that they are being neglected. They too must get jobs. So as we focus on young people, we must also focus on making sure that older people as well, 35 and above, nabantu abanjengami, bakwazi ukuyithola imisebenzi nabo. Comrades, many efforts have been made, yes, to open opportunities for young people and for women. The statement of the NEC as a whole, when you go through it, you'll be able to see the various efforts and interventions. And many of those will be clearly outlined in our manifesto. So we don't have the time now to go through all that. So there is still much that we are going to be able to do. Our country is blessed with rich mineral resources. This message was delivered to me and other leaders very clearly by the Youth League. They were saying, President, we are tired of being a country that exports all our mineral resources, be it iron ore, be it platinum, be it all these chrome and copper and all that, without beneficiating them. And they have said, please let us beneficiate our minerals. Let us, rather than export rock, soil and stones, let us export finished goods so that we create factories here, so that we industrialize our economy. And I agree with the Youth League. The Youth League is coming up forward with really good ideas, and I support them and I agree with them, and that is the way we are now going forward. They say we are tired of exporting raw materials. Let's export finished goods so that other people can buy our finished goods. That is wonderful. So, comrades, we will proceed with that. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which was adopted by the African Union, gives us a great opportunity. It is essentially a game changer for the industrialization and the development of our own country and of the continent. So by promoting industrialization, and we will be coming up with an industrial policy that is going to show the way of how we want to re-industrialize our economy, so that the factories that have now gone to sleep and dead, we can revive them. We can inject more activity in our manufacturing sector so that we make finished goods that we can sell to other countries. Now, we will then also need to address a number of other challenges. Electricity is one of our biggest challenges, which we are addressing. And in our January 8 statement last year, we focused on this. We have made progress, and we continue to make progress in that regard, notwithstanding the fact that now and again we continue having persistent load shedding, which we're not running away from, but we have become more transparent. We have become more forward in explaining to the nation what we are doing. One of the things we have to do, of course, is to increase the transmission capacity. And it is on this note that the whole nation must be grateful to Mpumalanga. You as Mpumalanga, you are the ones who generate our electricity. Siyanbonga, because our electricity comes from here in Mpumalanga. So we thank you, we applaud you. It's something wonderful that you do for our nation. Uguti, the electricity that lights up the lights in Cape Town, in the Eastern Cape, in the Northern Cape, in KZN, in the Free State, Gauteng, Northwest, all comes from here in Mpumalanga. It's something that we are grateful for. So, sintulela igogo, nina nonke, base Mpumalanga, sethi siyabonga, because you make a national contribution. Yes, comrades, one of the important tasks and priorities is to improve, yes, our basic services. And in this regard, we need to make sure that the services that are delivered to our people are improved. And in this regard, yes, we must admit there have been weaknesses, there have been reversals for a number of reasons. Yes, our people have been suffering with the spillage of sewage in their streets. Some of the sewage has been getting into our people's houses, and sometimes they've not had the water that they deserve. Sometimes they have not had waste removal. The cities of our towns of our country are filthy. Many of our municipalities don't function in the way that they should. And the National Executive Committee has identified this as an area of great priority so that we can ensure that we seek real improvement. And through monitoring and evaluating all this, we are going to ensure that there is intervention. But more importantly, we are now going to tighten the measures for accountability so that those who do not do the work that they should do, there should be accountability and consequence management. Ukuthi lento yokuthi uma abantu bemosha bahlale benjalo singayenzi lutho izawuphela. There must be consequence management. We must make sure that people do own up to some of those things. So service delivery has been identified as a key issue. So in the end, comrades, we want every branch of the African National Congress to be active, to be actively oriented, to be a branch that is alive, to have structures, substructures that are going to deal with specific issues, with schooling, with gender-based violence, yes, that are also going to deal with the protection of our infrastructure. We want every public servant in the spirit of Batupili to truly commit themselves. So therefore, we want all our public servants to commit and to be able to work more intensively for our people. So we must defend and advance our freedoms and successfully build a cohesive nation this year. And we must make sure that we deal with this issue of gender-based violence and promote the family as the basic unit of society. ANC branches must work with community-based organizations to make sure that we do not turn a blind eye to gender-based violence. All ANC structures must emulate the ANC Women's League in their excellent campaign to ensure that culprits of femicide, of child abuse, and rape are arrested, they are denied bail, and face the full applaud the ANC Women's League, and all the ANC Women's League members are so well adorned. Bahle futhi, and we as Mbombela nawe ukuthi they are beautiful. I want to thank them for taking up the issue of gender-based violence and ensuring and encouraging the state to take it up as a serious campaign. Working, of course, with many other organizations. So, Sitini Women's League, siyantulela imwazi, siyanbonga for taking up this campaign. Thank you very much indeed. So, comrades, we call on all our structures to make sure that we take up these campaigns, and as part of a caring organization that respects the fundamental rights of all people, ANC members should always be in the forefront. Persons with immunity and other groups subjected to prejudice and discrimination. And we want to call on our local government as well as provincial governments and local government. We must make sure that we open employment opportunities of people with disabilities. They must not be left to stay at home or wherever without getting jobs. Masibavuleleni indawo zokusebenza kuri na bona va kota ku kuma mintirho, va tirha hikuva lava ku tirha na bona. A va pfumeleni ku ri va nghena emintirhweni. Loko ni karhi ni famba ndhawini to tala, loko ni hlangana na vona, ni twa lava vanhu va disabled va ni byela ku ri a yi kumi mintirho ka local government, a va yi pfuleli ti-space ta ku ri hi tirha. So hi ri a yi pfuleni ku ri vanhu lava na vona va kota ku kuma mintirho va fana na van'wani vanhu. We must not relegate them to the back. Want to call on ANC branches to campaign to make sure that our communities pay for services that they use and support programs to introduce pay as you go. Now, this is an important area, comrades, because quite often we are finding that our municipalities do not have all the resources. They do not have the money that should go to improving our services. It's often quite because our people, many of our people, not all, a number of our people don't pay for services. The National Executive Committee says that we now need to get our branches to encourage our people to pay. So crime and corruption. Crime undermines and erodes the gains of freedom and shared prosperity. And crime and corruption are actually one of the biggest problems that our people are facing. And we say we, as ANC branches, must join the fight against criminality. And of course, we welcome the steps that have been taken by government, where we have already employed 20,000 more police. And next year we'll add another 10,000 to increase the number of police so that we can have more police on the streets. And also we want to see improvement in the capacity of the NPA and our courts, and ensure that the perpetrators of criminality are brought to justice. And we also welcome the setting up of special units and also the recent work of Chanela to target illegal mining and other priority crimes. We want, comrades, all our branches to be involved in community policing forums. This is fundamentally important if we are going to succeed to defeat crime. Because where the community policing forums are active, we found that the levels of crime tend to go down. And therefore, let's get involved in community policing forums. And it is by doing so that we will be able to reduce the incidence of criminality. And comrades, we want to also focus more on cross-border security issues such as human trafficking, drug smuggling, and illicit trade. We have continued with the initiatives of border security, and we are now enforcing strict immigration law because we want to deal and stop those who would like to come to our country undocumented, those who do not have papers, those who are illegal immigrants. The Border Management Agency, working with law enforcement agents, have seen phenomenal progress. Just in the few weeks where they've been set up, after being set up, they have stopped thousands and thousands of people who were just walking across our border without any documentation. So the setting up of the Border Management Authority was one of the most important decisions. Corruption in government, but corruption in business and society is another area of attention that we have decided to focus on, because corruption, whether in government, in business, in society, detracts from government's ability to improve the conditions of living of our people. And in fact, corruption is counter-revolutionary, and we need to deal with it, and we are going to be taking further steps with corruption. The ANC, therefore, welcomes the various steps that deal with anti-corruption that are being taken. Today, progressive people around the world, with the people of Palestine, and I'm very pleased that here, Comrade Mandandlov, in this stadium, we see placards and banners that deal with freeing Palestine, making sure that there's a ceasefire and ending the occupation. We condemn in the strongest terms the appalling slaughter and genocide of the people of Palestine that is being perpetrated in Gaza and the West Bank. The ANC has always stood side by side with the people of Palestine in their struggle for self-determination, because like we before 1994, they stood with us, many people around the world stood with us, and the people of Palestine faced the brutal enemy as well as we did. Nelson Mandela famously declared that our own freedom as South Africans is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. And comrades, that remains true even today. It is for that reason that South Africa took the unprecedented step to go and lodge a case at the International Court of Justice to go and say that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza and on the West Bank, and to urge the International Court to stop, to take a judgment that will stop that genocide. We have a responsibility, like other countries felt they had a responsibility to end apartheid. We also have a responsibility to end the genocide that is taking place. And comrades, it has been a real moment of great pride to see our legal team arguing South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice, and led by a son of this province, Comrade Ronald Lamola, from this very province. He is the one who led our case, and we say to Mpumalanga, thank you for producing a young man like Ronald, who has gone to lead us at the International Court. So comrades, we say our support for the Palestinians will continue. We also, comrades, we reiterate our support for other people around the world, and we solidly support the peoples of Cuba in their own struggle as they continue to suffer under the blockade that has been imposed on their country. We also support the struggles of the people of Western Sahara. So comrades, there have been various global crises where South Africa has been participating, and we participated with our sister African countries in seeking to bring about peace in the Ukraine and Russia conflict. And we will continue to play an active role in Africa's renewal and development. We are a trusted partner in conflict resolution, and we will continue to do so. And working together with other national liberation movements and progressive parties on the continent, we will continue making a contribution to make sure that there is development on our continent. And we've also participated at the global level on issues such as climate change. Recently, we were represented by our comrades Barbara Creasy, Comrade Mantashe, also represented us at COP28, and a number of other comrades, where we were able to make contributions on the effects of climate change. As we see, climate change continues to have a devastating impact on our own country. Our people in KZN right now, their lives are being devastated by continuous floods. Every year, the province of KZN, Eastern Cape, experiences devastating floods. The Free State and Northwest have devastating fires, and also part of the Western Cape. So these are issues of climate change that we are having to contend with, and it is good that at this time, we as South Africa are playing an important role. So comrades, as I conclude, the achievement of freedom and democratic gains that have been made should neither be taken for granted or diminished, because there is no easy walk to freedom. And freedom that we have achieved was not free, because millions of our people suffered, they struggled and sacrificed immensely so that our country can achieve the freedom that we have attained. Now it is for these reasons that today we echo the words of Nelson Mandela, the founding president of our democracy, who boldly pronounced during his inauguration and said, "Let freedom reign. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement." What we have done and what we are going to be celebrating when we are fully 30 years as a democracy is to celebrate this glorious human achievement that Utatu Nelson Mandela spoke about. Was deepening democracy, fast-tracking fundamental socio-economic transformation is the best way to defend and advance our freedom. And accordingly, the National Executive Committee has decided that we dedicate the 112th anniversary of the ANC to the defense and advancement of the gains of freedom and to the intensification of the struggle for a better life for all. We therefore declare 2024 to be the year of united action to defend our freedom and advance a better life for all. Because with this, we are moving forward to a decisive victory. And this is the theme that the National Executive Committee has decided should be the theme for 2024. Comrades, this is the rallying call for all of us to go forward, to go and win the 2024 national and provincial elections. We reflect on our past, but we then say we want to defend the advances and the gains. And that is why our theme is that we now must advance further to improve our people's lives by giving them a better life. And we can only do so by moving forward to a decisive victory. So it is a call for my Some. It is a call for my Some. Niyabasabana. Angni soma comrades. Atiko ni fa. Labakuta mitwa kate. Niyabasabana. Niyabasabana. Allow Makama City, forward to victory, forward. Forward to victory in the elections, forward. Mabese sizobabonisa, amandla. Amandla. Ngiyabonga.
Awuvume moya wangu, awuvume moya wangu, moya wangu, awuvume moya wangu, awuvume moya wangu, moya wangu, awuvume moya wangu.
Comrades, Masime Ngolo Hlobo, let's stand there. Let's stand up. Today, Comrade Kaneme Kancinci, comrades, Kaneme ngalo coffin yenu. Kaneme, comrades. Comrades, today at about 3 a.m. on R71 near Mahuba's Kloof, a bus carrying passengers to this rally capsized and their fatalities registered. So, in respect of those comrades, let's observe a moment of silence once more. Where you are, stand, observe a moment of silence for those comrades. Amanda, comrades, we are now getting into messages of support. We must all pay attention. We must all pay attention. We are going to first the first message. But before I do that, let's acknowledge liberation movements that has come to honor this event. MPLR from Angola is here. Frelimo from Mozambique is here. SWAPO from Namibia is here. ZANU-PF from Zimbabwe is here. From Botswana, we have two parties that are here. Both the BDP and the BNF are here. From West Cuban Solidarity movement is here. Now, what? Comrades, we know it's a nice song, but please hold. Comrades, it's a nice song. I love it, but let's receive messages of support. Comrades, let's receive messages of support. Stop that song. Sometimes in celebrating, you may disrupt the meeting unintended. Now, we're going to ask Maulana Abdullah Bam from the Friends of Palestine to deliver a message of support. Hello, Maulana. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. I'll just give it 2-3 minutes. It won't be long. Comrades, friends, elders, brothers, mothers and sisters, I greet you with the universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May the peace and blessings of Almighty be upon you. We first thank the Almighty, and we ask Him and we pray to Him to protect South Africa, the people of South Africa, to grant us success, to grant us prosperity, and to guide leaders towards that which is good for the country. After acknowledging the Almighty, I acknowledge the Honorable President of South Africa, the Honorable Ministers, and the NEC and all protocols observed. Today, we are part of South Africa, and we are proud for the achievements of South Africa in taking Israel to the International Court of Justice. And we say, free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! This action of South Africa is an action of moral courage. It's an action that has given a ray of hope for people who have become frustrated by seeing the killings of innocent women and children. This action of South Africa has brought about worldwide support from people of conscience. It has forced Israel to come onto the world stage to defend itself, something which it did not like to do up till now. And no matter what happens from here, whether this application succeeds or not, because of politics, because the evidence is quite clear, as the President spoke glowingly about the legal team who had proven beyond doubt the genocide carried out by Israel. Irrespective of what happens from here, South Africa has achieved the respect of the entire world. And we, from behalf of the Palestinian Solidarity Organization and the morally upright people of the world, we would like to applaud the ruling party, the South African government, for this. We applaud you, and we hope you will continue with this. And many people ask, why do we do it? Because we do it because we, as South Africans, went through the same thing. We went through colonization. We went through oppression. We went through apartheid. And what is happening in Israel is apartheid as cited by none other than the icons of this country, by the heroes of this country, by Nelson Mandela Madiba, who said, the complete until Palestine is free. Free, free Palestine. And Desmond Tutu, who said, when I see the Palestinians at the checkpoints, it reminds me of the people of South Africa who had to suffer at the hands of the apartheid police. So we do it because it's our moral responsibility. We went through the same thing, and we will assist those who are going through the same thing. And lastly, I will just say one small thing. The way we had moral courage to address this international issue, I pray that we also have the moral courage to address our internal challenges, the challenges of unemployment, youth opportunity, respect and dignity for women, and service delivery, and bring in justice and respect and dignity to every South African. Therefore, in conclusion, we, on behalf of our Palestinian solidarity movements, we would like to give a gift. And this is a gift of a painting done by a Muslim sister by the name of Zahra Patel. And she has asked us to give it to the President. which is a most beautiful gift, which brings about the flags of Palestine and South Africa. And we are presenting this to the President of the country on behalf of morally conscious people of the world. Thank you so much. Free, free Palestine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
Shukran, Mullah. Thank you very much. That was the message.
seen a little earlier on when there was a call for a moment of silence in honor of the Palestinians. It was quite incredible. More than 60,000 people in the stadium getting really quiet, unlike what we'd seen throughout the day. And obviously, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, mentioned that incident, taking the issue of genocide to the ICJ. He was in full mode today. It seemed as though he was really enjoying himself, and it's been a long time since I've seen him that pumped up. He started with taking a swipe at Jacob Zuma's MK party, saying that the real MK is here, and to make a point, there was even a coffin in the stadium. I think it is still there now, and lots of people were holding banners saying R.I.P. Zuma. The president spent a lot of time boasting about what's been done about women in South Africa, the fact that there are so many in parliament and that they're tackling successfully with PVV. I'm not too sure that he's correct about that. He carried on about achievements. He also touched on corruption in government. He said, we've decided to focus on corruption now, and I think everyone glazed over a little bit there. He also said it's counter-revolutionary, but we know that it's been rampant under this president, so it would have been good to hear something different there. He referenced Amapiano, which is a subgenre of house music. So he was really talking to the youth getting down there. And it's interesting that they're targeting the youth, and you can totally understand that. I mean, with the highest unemployment rate in the world, over 60% for the youth. And he is confident about a resounding success when it comes to the elections. He says, if you want a coalition, you just get bubblegum. So can today do that just for them? Sidi, my dear, is sitting next to me. Sidi, what did you make of that? I mean, he was pumped up, wasn't he? He was enthusiastic. He's had a pretty good week.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to our viewers. Before I even speak about Cyril Ramaphosa, I actually want to take you down memory lane. So, the last time the ANC was here was about 10 years ago. So I've had a lot of reflections watching today, and I remembered that at a time like this, often the stadium was empty, having been full in the morning, but would have emptied out. It was a different president of the ANC at the time. It was during former President Jacob Zuma's tenure. It is a little bit wild to me that the former President Jacob Zuma then was laughing at coffins of R.I.P. Malema, R.I.P. EFF, and today we arrive here and you see R.I.P. Zuma. It is really, really strange. It's a strange turn of events how he finds himself really on the outside of a party he led successfully, well, depending on who you ask, for 2 terms, right? So that's been kind of what I've been thinking about, that they're not worried about him being booed, their president being booed. They're not worried about the audience being flashed out in the middle of the engagement. It's late afternoon. They're still mostly here in the stadium. So that's a very different ANC in that regard. But in terms of what Ramaphosa was like before his party members, party faithful, I think he is comfortable. He's at a comfortable week. He's at a comfortable run-up to this period. I mean, I saw him in December. I saw him a few days ago. And again, a picture of confidence, somebody who is shown love by his party members where he goes. So I think he is enjoying that. But I do think that this particular speech, he spoke about Amapiano, I think they understand that they are in an election period. Yeah. I think they understand that you've got to woo the young. Hence, if you paid attention, there was a really large chunk of the speech dedicated to the work that they've done for the youth, yep, and the work that needs to be done to, again, increase opportunities and enhance the livelihoods of young people. So, again, people will be selling all manner of things to young people because they want them at the votes. Part of the theme is that it's a year of defending a decisive victory and defending their gains. So they understand that there's a task, an arduous task that lies ahead, and it is about the elections. So a lot of that also coming through. And if I may very quickly, a lot of flashbacks, if you may, of what they've done in the 30 years that they've been in government.
Yes, I was saying it's a bit like dementia, isn't it? I mean, he remembered everything from then, but not what's happening recently. And of course, dramatic successes since 1994, but many of them have stalled, if not reversed the process. I mean, when it comes to services, and as well as they were received in parts of Mpumalanga, there was a lot of disgruntlement, wasn't there? I mean, people were upset. They're not getting what they want.
It is an interesting thing that happens with ANC voters, but I think John Perlman, a colleague of us on the radio, said it so well, that if you come into the lounge and I've been angry with you after you've done wrong things all the time, the day I stop screaming and shouting, you know your time is up. And I think they also have that where these people still feel so much about the party. I've seen that. I was in Hazyview, I was in Barberton, I was in Kwamklang, I was in a lot of areas in Mpumalanga, and by and large, there's a lot of anger on the ground. There's a lot of frustration with what have you felt, what have you not delivered, what have you promised that you haven't seen through, you haven't followed up on, but there's still a strong feeling that there's no one else for these people. I imagine those who are here and some that they've met with, that it is the ANC. The ANC does enjoy, Jane, a lot of support in this particular province. I think, absolutely, you saw the turnout. I mean, the stadium is capacity. You spoke about 50,000 people. That was by 1 o'clock. From what I understand, there's still rows and rows of buses still trying to get in. I don't know where to, because people are already on the overflow. So it is a province that's going to show them love. It wasn't surprising in any way imaginable. I think that it's an easy pick, if you may. It might be harder when they go to KwaZulu-Natal for their manifesto launch. It might be harder when they go to Gauteng. That's been seen as the epicenter of the elections. It might be a province they love. However, it is also a province where it's contested terrain. It is the epicenter of the elections.
And he also picked on an easy victory here, just saying that in Mpumalanga, when it comes to coal, it's successful. You provide a lot of energy towards us, and therefore he's sort of avoided saying anything about what's happening from an energy point of view, right? I mean, something that you can understand that he might want to forget about today.
He spoke a little bit about it. I actually forgot to answer your question about dementia earlier on. I asked Ramaphosa last month, I said to him, geez, you are the governing party as it stands. Why do you feel this desperate need to remind us every day of what you've done? You've been in government. It's what you owe us as the party of the day. And he said to me that we will continue to defend our gains. We'll continue to celebrate the work that we've done. We will not be apologetic about it. Funny enough, I've been going through old January 8 statements, and I remember reading Thabo Mbeki's final one in 2007 before he was elected out of power at the Polokwane conference. And even there was a strong sentiment about defending what the ANC had done. But surprisingly, there was also a strong sentiment about what needed to be done. As we speak today, making sure government performs better was an issue. The economy, not the rate of investment into the economy was an issue. The rate of economic growth was an issue. Joblessness was an issue, and we remain with those problems. I do think Ramaphosa did touch on them, but I do understand why one in an election year would want to dumb down or tone down the issues and try and play up what you've done right. It's not surprising. Again, it's an election year. The ANC is asking for a vote. What I think they attempted to do, Jane, is with their election manifesto reviews that they had over the past few months, was to hear the things that are wrong. He did touch on energy. My issue with their position on energy is there's a constant commitment to deal with it. However, over the past year, what we've seen is a heck of a lot of busyness, a heck of a lot of talk, but you still have the power producer being babysat by 4 ministers. You've got an electricity minister who can't do much. Yep. You have the public enterprises minister. You've got energy, and don't forget environmental affairs. There's also attached there because you speak of renewables. So there's a lot of business. And a new CEO. Gosh, there's a lot. So there's a lot going on, but it hasn't really done much. In fact, the things that they praise themselves for doing is actually just fixing the things that were wrong. The improvement is what was wrong. It's not growth. Yeah. We're not tapping into, and that's the case with many things. The improvement to the economy, we are fixing what had regressed. So that's part of the problem. I'm not surprised, again, about him downplaying some of the challenges. What was surprising for me was the talk on corruption. Often they try and do, particularly Ramaphosa, and it's something that some in the ANC have an issue with, they try and do an inward reflection of where they've gone wrong with corruption. Today he was very clear about private sector corruption and corruption in society, saying actually it's not just us. Yes, government corruption, but picking holes at others who he feels, look, we need to look at those people too.
And I'm sure they all confess it, but I mean, we know that corruption is a big problem. South Africans are not satisfied by what we see. He said he'll put more money into the NPA. He said that the lawyer's doing a fantastic job. We've been hearing that for a long time. I mean, I interviewed her when I first came back to South Africa about 6 years ago. And she was just when she started, maybe 5.5 years ago, and she was saying even then she was finding it very difficult to do her job. She didn't have the money that she needed. So, I mean, actions in that regard speak louder than words. And also when you see some of the people who are sitting on the NEC, there's another statement for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Minister Ronald Lamola, an NEC member by and large, was in Parliament not too long ago speaking about the lack of resources, that funding is still not where it ought to be in order for them to ramp up the fight against corruption. I think South Africa is beyond outrage that every scandal, and I think to a large degree, we reach a point where we feel so hopeless. But again, we're in an election year. That's the beauty of 2024. And I think, again, all the political parties realize that if you are fed up, you can do something. You don't have to maintain the status quo. So I think it's an interesting time. They are aware of it. I think Ramaphosa is almost. I'm trying to think about how I feel about it, but he's been lambasted by his own party for a position on corruption. A few years ago, he came out saying that ANC is the number one accused, corruption accused. He's kind of not been uttering those sentiments any longer.
No.
It's something
Starts
that
to get
some in the
embarrassing.
ANC take an issue with, which is weird for me, because I feel as a member of society, actually, yes, you are.
Yeah.
You're the government of the day. So I think he's constantly trying to balance his own organization versus what he thinks the public wants from him, and he's never won. I mean, thus far he's never won at that. But yes, the issue of corruption is something that I think will remain a thorn at the ANC side, rightfully so, as they go and ask for votes.
But what's going to change? I mean, he talks about an outright majority. We know that that's what they want. He says coalition, that's equivalent of bubblegum. I mean, the problem is if they get an outright majority, which I don't imagine will happen, it's almost...
You and I differ on that opinion. I think that the polls are not necessarily... Listen,
think
we'll have
an
a conversation
outright
about the
majority.
polls.
Yes,
We'll
yes,
have a conversation,
yes.
different conversation about the
Yes.
polls. We might debate outright majority, but I firmly think that you need to understand that the polls are sponsored by different people. There are few and far in between that I believe in. I think that we're going to have absolutely a mixed bag of results.
Yeah.
The provinces are very interesting. But yes, anyway, moving right along.
No, but I mean, I agree. I think the coalition parties shouldn't be complacent because this kind of thing, when you just think it's the time over for ANC, they might come back and prove everybody wrong. But if they get a strong majority, a lead, if they win the elections again, it
50
doesn't
plus one
seem.
win.
Yeah, it doesn't seem as though it's going to make any difference on corruption, is it? I mean, it's rampant under this president. I mean, many party members will see this as a hey. We've given you the green light to carry on.
I'd like to believe not, Jane. The ANC has never been in a situation where it is with the people of this country,
No.
where it is close to losing power. I think dealing with particular issues, you deal with them with an understanding, one hopes, with an understanding of what's at risk. And I think the ANC sees it. It's been on a downward trajectory. The losses from 2016 at local government, they've never been able to undo that. It's gotten worse for them, actually, in the 2021 elections. Their downward trajectory at national elections is likely to continue. I think they're well aware of it too. There's very little runway that this party has. I think that they're in a strange place. I mean, they talk renewal, and it's a very exhausting conversation. But I do think that the little fractures that have occurred within the organization are also good for the party. It forces the party to maybe attempt to look at quality versus quantity.
Yes.
And maybe that's where the path lies. But in terms of whether South Africans will get what they want from an ANC in dealing with the issues that they complain about, I don't think so. That's where you must take responsibility as an active citizen and make a determination about who ought to govern. So if the ANC still works for you, again, I keep going back to the status quo conversation, then great, good for you. If it doesn't, you must also then do what it takes to change that. And I think part of the, actually I must talk about the arrogance that we've often seen of the ANC over the past years. By and large, Jane, I don't see that. But I do think that what troubles the ANC is internal squabbles.
Yep.
Ramaphosa spoke about them, and he almost spoke about them as if there's an attempt to make it look like there's internal squabbles. It's not an attempt. It's a very real thing. Organizing an event such as this one, they are having the most petulant squabbles about the most silliest of things. And I speak to NEC members, and I ask
Is that
myself...
a sign of stress?
that I don't even know, put it down to stress. I think it's a sign of a lack of focus. I saw the elders earlier, I saw Mac Maharaj and Reverend Frank Chikane, and they are begging and pleading with their party to focus on the people, to focus on the mandate, to go back to what people want and expect from the party. And I think it's great, and the talk is great. But in a week leading up to his birthday, you saw the Secretary General go off, and then the former Secretary General, now the Chairperson, Kwede Mantashe, also go off. That also resulted in divisions within the NEC about what to make of what these comments were, or is it damaging to brand ANC? So there's this constant back and forth by the party, and a lack of, for me, it's a lack of focus. When that becomes the bigger picture, when you don't deal with what former President Jacob Zuma did on December 16th, and so you'll get to it, you leave media asking you endless questions about the same thing over and over and over again.
Yep.
You defocus everyone, yourself included, in what you say you're attempting to do. So part of their weekend, Mpumalanga, is a really good example of that, Jane, where while they're here for this birthday, if you look at the media reports, and it's not because of the media, it's in part because of their own doing, where again,
We've got to
they
put
take a
their
decision.
pieces in.
Yeah, they say they take a decision not to do anything. The Secretary General goes, invites the media everywhere and starts talking about it. So it is all those things that are part of the problem.
So, okay, so let's, how dangerous is Zuma at the moment? I mean, what do we know he's doing with this party? What's going to happen? You know, I know that there's been a conversation within the ANC that if you chastise people in the ANC, when it comes to corruption, for example, they might go into the Zuma camp. What's happening there?
It's an interesting one. I think there are people who have been allowed to former President. I'm going to try and unpack it in bits and pieces. There are people who are allowed to former President Jacob Zuma who are making it very clear to the ANC that they're going nowhere. I've seen a few on the ground this week saying, and I'm like, oh, and Ace Makasile, by the way, the former Secretary General. I said, oh, Chris, oh, so you're still here? I thought you left. And they're like, I'm going nowhere. I built my career in the ANC on my own. I'm not going to risk it for the next person. So there's that, where people are thinking about it. Des van Rooyen has said to people in the MPA, if you want to go, go. But we are staying with the real Umkhonto with the ANC. So there is a need to create distance by some people. I think former President Jacob Zuma's popularity in KZN, there's also divisions within the party about what it means. There's some who feared not having Zuma on the campaign trail with the ANC would be devastating for the party. There are those who feared that having Zuma support something else, which is done now, would be devastating for the party. There's some who believe it's inconsequential, but you also need to watch the MK party in and of itself, Jane. He's been in Gauteng, in KZN, and then in Mpumalanga has been in the region closer to the border of KZN. So that tells you something about the ethnic mobilization elements that exist within this particular party. I have not seen former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party going to Limpopo, and also in the areas in Gauteng, they're very clear about where they're going. So it's almost has smacks of ethno-mobilization, if you may. And I think that's dangerous for different reasons altogether. And the ANC needs to nip it in the bud because they come from a province that's been volatile in KZN. And he can use that. He's been known to be able to use it, to use the victim card so well. His rise, his ascendancy to the union building was built on that. So that is something that they need to be mindful of. I don't know if there was room to talk because that MK project had been underway for well over a year, from what I understand. So will it be damaging to the ANC at a national level? I actually don't think so. I think that it might fizzle out. Yeah, I might be proven wrong, but I think that it might fizzle out. We are not far from elections, but a day in politics in this country, it's a lifetime. So I'm not so sure about that. And then the other thing...
Sorry, now I was going to say that Julius has been the only one who's really made a successful breakaway party, hasn't he? So I mean,
he's been interesting. Julius Malema and his EFF have been interesting. I mean, 10 years ago, it would have been 10 years ago, they were preparing for their first election. Yes, preparing for their first elections as the EFF. And I think the ANC attempted to undermine what he could do, but it became a force. They became a force in Parliament. They agitated particular conversations that were necessary. The land conversation was a necessity. Having younger people take big positions in government and society was a big thing. In fact, many young people in the ANC have to thank parties like the EFF, like the DA Fielding and Musi Maimani, for being allowed to finally get up as well. Ronald Ramula is a 40-year-old minister. There was a period in the ANC from former President Jacob Zuma's that you weren't seeing that. You saw those things where you heard about it during the Mbeki era. I was too young, that's what I heard about. But yeah, so so its arrival to some degree has helped agitate some issues in the ANC.
Let's go back to the youth vote. I mean, it's crucial, isn't it, that whatever party it is, and Hallelujah who does it, manages to get the youth excited. We've done, and you and I heard different interviews on this, but what I heard were many in the young, under sort of, from 18 upwards or whatever, is just saying that they're not going to vote because of the lack of service delivery. They don't want to get involved. So how do we get them involved? Because it's important for the country as a whole and clearly for the ANC.
Jen, I think the key is civic education. We talk about it all the time. I think citizens must also take responsibility for the country that they live in. When people say, oh, you get the country you deserve, the government you deserve, they're not lying. I think there's not enough civic education. I think if you speak to the Electoral Commission of South Africa, the IEC, there have been some regression in the work of voter education over the years. there's something interesting that I was once told by the late Deputy Secretary General of this very party, Jessie Duarte. She was speaking about the issue of racism, and she said to me, I think we're here. This is during the period of I can't breathe in the States, but we're seeing our own issues in our country. And she said she believes that at some point the ANC dropped the ball because they got comfortable thinking we've done the work, we're a cohesive society. And in dropping the ball and thinking we are whole, they let go. And when you let go and you leave a gap, that's what you leave room for old vices to come back. And so I do think that when it comes to voter education, somewhere in our country's trajectory, we stop focusing on all of that. And we kind of need to go back to looking at voter registration and amplifying and helping young people understand what their role is. You hear that they're apathetic, they're not apathetic. I think that they're bored with what's on offer across the board. So there's also that.
All right, let's listen to what the President was saying a little earlier on.
Of disciplined comrades and members rooted in communities are the lifeblood of any mass revolutionary organization. Precisely what I was talking about the issue of discipline. The NEC then introduced 3 branch awards. The Sol Plaatje Award for the best performing ANC branch. The Charlotte Maxeke Award for the best ANC Women's League branch. The Anton Lembede Award for the best ANC Youth League branch. And the ZK Matthews Award for the best performing group of ANC councillors. So these awards were halted in 2009 following the absence of nominations from branches and the state of organization, which was not ideal. The National Executive Committee this time round is pleased to announce that we have reinstated the awards again, starting this year with the awarding of the Sol Plaatje branch to the best performing ANC branch. Now, these branches were selected based on their organizational functionality, their work in the community, their performance on the 6th January 8th tasks, and their work to mobilize our people in the award to register voters and to work for an overwhelming ANC victory. The 3 branches, comrades, that we will award today are a branch in an urban metro setting in Gauteng, one from a town in Limpopo, and one from a rural area here in Mpumalanga. I am therefore pleased and very proud to announce that on behalf of the National Executive Committee and all members of the ANC, the Sol Plaatje Award winners for 2023. In the second place was the runner-up in the branch in Ward 12 in Mbombela from our very host province in Mpumalanga. I will call Comrade Dan Nkosi, the branch secretary and the branch chairperson, Speto Mhlongo, to come forward to receive the award on behalf of the branch as a runner-up. So let them come forward. It's like they already knew They are already here. Baye babahlebela ukuthi basondele. Congratulations, comrades. Congratulations. Siyabongela nawe nobhala we-province, Comrade Chirwa. Comrade Ndlovu. Siyanibongela. Out of the 4,000 or so branches of the ANC, Mpumalanga is a runner-up. So here is the best performing ANC branch runner-up. Number 2. Next year you must try to be number 1. Siyanibongela. Siyanibongela. We have 2 branches that are...
All right, we're going to be leaving the award ceremony happening in the stadium at the moment. The president has been talking for the last couple of minutes or so. Let's talk about the alliance partners who offered up messages of support. How important is that? What have you been seeing in those camps?
Yeah, you know, the ANC and the alliance movement, when there are problems, they tend to close rank. And I've seen that over recent days where the SSCP has really been the loudest voice in support of the ANC around the Zuma matter, but rightfully so, because the SSCP is a co-founder of Umkhonto weSizwe. The liberation wing, the armed wing rather, of the ANC was not just an ANC issue, it was actually an alliance issue. So Slovo was one of its founding commanders. So it is one of those things where they felt the right, they are entitled, I think, by and large, to lay claim to what they make of what's going on.
Yeah.
And the SSCP came out quite strongly. They were out in Soweto last week. They were out here in Mbombela this week where they spoke about it. In fact, our colleague Alpha Ramushwana asked the General Secretary Solima Paila just about whether or not they regret backing Zuma. Because when you think about the Zuma story that they are now so angry about, where Paul Mashatile says he's a counter-revolutionary and that some people are mistakes, they backed the former president to be president of this party and ultimately to occupy the highest office in the land. It wasn't a mistake. They were present.
Yes.
And Alpha asking Solima Paila whether or not they regretted backing him. And Solima Paila said they don't regret backing him for ANC president, but definitely regret seeing him into the union buildings, of course, because of what happened with corruption, the rise of corruption, as well as state capture, or they called it the capture of parasitic networks, of the state by parasitic networks by the SSCP. So that is a conversation that a lot of reflection needs to happen. I struggle to find to make sense of how they don't regret backing him, but that speaks to their own politics at the time with former President Thabo Mbeki as well. So you are seeing a lot of them close rank. I expected to see Zingiswa Losi. I haven't seen it today, but I absolutely know that she'd come out batting for the ANC along with workers. So absolutely, it's not surprising. They tend to close rank when they feel threatened, and we're definitely seeing it. But back to the SSCP though, they are concerned about the gains of democracy that everyone keeps talking about, saying that they face a real threat of regression, that the concerns that they have about things that have gone wrong remain true. I mean, their role is that of the vanguard. And speaking of, I'm just going to continue quickly on the Jacob Zuma matter, because I did see Nomvula Mokonyane. He was seen as an ally back in the day of former President Jacob Zuma. Even seeing her, Jane, I asked her, she once stood in Germiston and she said she'll pick up let the rand fall, they'll pick up the rand on behalf of former President Jacob Zuma. And I asked her, I was like, you were that person. Today, he's this guy. Your thoughts? You know, and she said she was defending a president of the ANC at the time.
Or she's a flip-flopper, right? I mean, you stand with who you believe is going to win.
No, Shane,
turn with the
listen,
times?
I think flip-flop is a term often used in the EFF. I wouldn't say that in this regard. I think they were supporting a president. I think that's part of the problem with the ANC, and that's how Nkandla was allowed to happen. And to some degree, that's how people feel Palapala is allowed to play itself out at the moment, is that the party's president is somebody they tend to defend. And people have been saying, commentators have been saying, if actually you had learned from Nkandla and closing rank around the president, you would have allowed that independent process, the independent process in Parliament into whether or not there was enough evidence for the president to face impeachment over an impeachment process over the Palapala matter to have gone through, and you didn't. You closed rank, and you are threatening to punish those who were defiant in that moment. So it's very hard to see where the lessons have been learned. I think state capture, the same was seen by now Chief Justice Raymond Zondo about the threats that remain for state capture to happen again. It's because the leaders in charge of this particular party and in government are seemingly not learning the necessary lessons to avert those things that we've experienced in the past.
And sticking by President Fikile Mbalula's remarks about supporting him, knowing what had happened regarding the pool, I mean, how's that playing out with the ANC? Is he damaging the reputation of the ANC? Is it just Fikile, this is what he does?
It's such a funny story because I laugh now, Jane, because he's dragged me into it, because him and I had a conversation back in 2022 on politicking for EWN about this very matter. And I was like, oh, what is this about? But ultimately, his argument is, he said, I think what shocked me isn't the confession. He's right. We were aware that the ANC misled Parliament. They were found to be wanting. It was, again, multiple avenues that had lambasted the party for its behavior. I think it was the arrogance that was set in as it was happening. As you're speaking about Zuma, saying, yes, you know, this person who cannot be cleansed, sanitized, or polished. Because that's what he was saying in essence. We even did this. But it's the arrogance of the delivery that shocked me. He's right to say, no, it's not new. Absolutely, it's not new information. It wasn't a confession. It is how he delivered it. Where
agree.
one expects to see some level of regret in your behavior when you reflect back on what you've done wrong as leaders in society. And I think he's being lambasted for it hard internally, that I know. A lot of NEC members embarrassed that happened. A lot of NEC members saying, they see him as a motor mouth and somebody like the spotlight and who doesn't hold back when he should. Like, you do need to do a little bit more thinking before you talk. I mean, so there is that argument from some in the party.
It's a bit like Gwede Mantashe saying to me that we'll never throw anyone from the ANC under the bus when I was talking about the ANC. And you think, and you want to say, I don't want to hear that as a South African. I want to hear you say that we will do something about it, or we are disgusted, or something. That emotion doesn't come easily.
That's a constant battle that South Africans face. Does the party prioritize itself, or does it prioritize the country? Former President actually, Zuma used to say, actually, the ANC comes first. And I think that, again, Jane, a lot of the questions you're asking, a lot of the conversations we're having, truly must lead us to the polls, where we make hard decisions about what does this country deserve. Is this the right path? Zamani Soul, Dr. Zamani Soul in the ANC recently wrote for EWN a piece about whether or not 30 years was enough to undo what apartheid has done, whether it's enough to develop a country to where it ought to be. And I thought that it was a frank assessment. A frank assessment that also recognized the ANC's failures about where we are and how much more work still needs to be done. So that signals that within the room there are people who are able to do a good job of assessing where they are. In fact, the ANC has often been praised for being its best able positioned to diagnose where it goes wrong. It does a really fantastic job. It can tell you better than you and I can of what it does wrong. The question is the political will and the impetus to actually start addressing those issues.
I mean, I heard 2050 is about the time that South Africa will come right and they'll get things up and running in a sort of country that you'd really like to live in, which seems a very long time. Country that we'd like to live in needs investment. We need to get the unemployment down. Quite a bit of focus on the Palestinian issue, understandable. It was seen as a success in many parts of the world. South Africa fighting for injustices, all of that sort of thing. What sort of impact do you think it's going to make economically? We've got the World Economic Forum coming up next week. Will it hit us hard?
I think South Africa's find itself in this interesting space as far as geopolitics is concerned, We saw it with Russia and Ukraine. And I don't think it was necessarily Ukraine's aggression, it was America's aggression that South Africa was dealing with. It was America forcing South Africa to take a position, but it was also a clumsy South Africa in navigating its message and its position of non-alliance on the issue of Russia, in part because of its own relationship with Russia. I think that it took them a really long time to try and figure out, not even a sweet spot, a messaging around where they stood. I think that they were laughed at when they went to both Ukraine and Russia as African countries, but I think it was the right thing to do. You must learn to punch above your weight. I think that Africa, there's a different kind of thinking that needs to happen on this continent, and I saw a little bit of that. I saw flashes of brilliance in South Africa. I agree wholeheartedly as an individual with the country's steps approaching the International Court of Justice. I think that it's for the right reason. And I mean, we looked around this particular stadium where the ceasefire banners, Free Palestine banners. So I understand that, and that speaks of the South Africa our parents spoke of, where they had leaders who stood for something and acted for something. It's something that I saw made many South Africans proud. So this country has that capacity, and strangely enough, Jane, this party has that capacity because it is the party that's leading the charge. But it is an interesting space where geopolitics is concerned because there's so much push and pull, and we don't have the necessary muscle to do any pushing really. But we have a moral background, we've been a moral
Absolutely.
voice, a true north at some point that I think we are attempting to go back and leverage on. But in terms of what that means for it economically, I think about America, I think about AGOA. Yes, Congress must still ultimately make a decision about AGOA, but the truth be told, a lot of the narrative in our country has been how, we're going to lose AGOA, but America needs us as much as we need them. The value chain here for AGOA is very much centered around South Africa. You can't just pluck it and move it to Kenya tomorrow and think you'll succeed. You won't. You need us. We still remain a gateway to this continent with everything that's wrong here. So I often think that when we talk about it, it's like cutting your nose to spite your face, and we lack the necessary nuance. I'm not an economist, so I take it that I lack the necessary nuance. But when I look at that
Pretty
picture, I don't
impressive
think
answer,
it's... but I take it that it's not as simplistic as we are attempting to make it. And I think that it is important to stop being those with the begging bowl. We need to change it. But mind you, we can't speak of just Palestine. We can't speak of just going to the G20. We can't speak of going beyond ourselves. We must, absolutely must. Cyril Ramaphosa's speech in France was crucial. But we can't just do that. We need to look at SADC. We need to look at Zimbabwe. We need to look at our region and our continent. We need to look at the Congo and Sudan and intervene
What's happening here?
just as fiercely there.
Money, let's stick to that, but let's talk about ANC's money. A couple of months
I
ago.
see that cake is starting to roll out.
Oh,
as we
there's
speak
that
about
cake.
money.
Right,
Yes.
yes, I mean, I wonder how much that cake cost. Probably money in the
I
cake.
can tell you now about the money based on the cake. The Treasurer General Gwen Ramaphosa has been refusing to give sums. I mean, I've been
Yes.
asking time and moment. I've been saying, Alpha, please ask. How much is this party worth? How much is the election campaign worth? You know, they just lost over 100 and something odd millions to Azulun investments that was settled. We don't even have clarity over those terms. Action SA has approached the IEC attempting to probe a little bit further. The ANC said, look, you're more than welcome to do your bit. We are welcome to do our bit. But what's interesting about the Action SA case is that it's bedded on the Party Funding Act. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that space. But in terms of money, from what I understand, they're definitely in a better standing since Paul Mashatile left the Treasurer General, the coffers of the ANC. What we saw is Gwen Ramaphosa take on the role. Gwen Ramaphosa is seen as an ally of the party's president. So some of the rumors that would be happening when Paul Mashatile was Treasurer General and David Mabuza, who is here actually, former deputy president, when during that period, what you'd often hear is a back and forth chain about is it a trust thing? Is the president allowing people to? Is it a donation? Is it going to be in good hands? Will it be used for individual campaigns? So you're not hearing a lot of that. You're seeing and hearing of staffers suddenly getting their salaries worth. I spent much of 2023 kind of trying to check up on it because it was a story of 2022. And it really wasn't. It didn't feature as much. Gwen Ramaphosa telling a lot of journalists throughout this week that actually they are meeting a lot of their obligations. They're not where they want to be. I don't know if you saw images from the gala dinner last night, Jane, where they had a long table instead of the standard 10 persons, 10 seats, what is it, 10 seats, 10 seats table
10 seat
set up.
table.
So instead of that, they had a long table, and from what I understood is that people were pledging quite a large chunk to at least be on that long table. We don't know how much they've made yet, but rumor has it that they did make a pretty penny. I think that is a birthday song I'm hearing. So it is 112 years of the ANC. And funny enough, I was laughing at these men as well, members of the MK, where their role has never been more important to the ANC than it is now, when former President Jacob Zuma is launching something of a parallel structure. So yes, so MK soldiers are often seen handling the cake, and they're doing so today. And I see there.
And I think we should wish the party happy birthday.
I suppose, and there's that sign, RIP MK party. So yeah, it's
they're taking the
ironic to me.
coffin
It's
out.
really strange for me. 10 years ago, like I said, it was RIP Malema, RIP EFF, and here we are today, Jane.
Here we are.
Ngicela Nkosi ungangithathisa sengane nami ngifuna ukuphuza masinyane ngizudala ngishadisane naye wasikwana
Top 7, President of the Veterans League, President of the Women's League, President of the Youth League, bayakonobhala. Ukusika nokubhala are two different things. No, not the chair of Gauteng, chair of Mpumalanga. Yes, not chair of Gauteng, chair of Mpumalanga. Kanisikeleni le cake siyanicela. There you are. Kanicule happy birthday. Kanicule happy birthday.
How significant is this picture now for the ANC?
I think it's that elusive unity that they're constantly chasing. I see there.
But they're fighting over the knife.
Well, our picture's slightly delayed from what I understand, Jane, but I do see there the ANC Women's League President, Sisi Tolashe. I see Paul Mashatile. I'm seeing obviously the presidents. I'm seeing Tigile Mbalula. I see Solima Paila. So there's also a need to include members of the alliance. Often the cake cutting moment leaves them out. And I must just very quickly let you know, Jane, that this cake, because it becomes a contentious issue. Oh, you bake such a big cake, expensive cake. They actually often take it to a lot of the homes that they've visited within the week. They share it with, I know that Mbombela Stadium was out in Easy View. I think at a
vegetables.
home of yes. And so that part of the cake will go there. I see Mbombela Stadium there as well. So there is a real strong attempt of the picture of unity where again you're seeing members of the alliance, as you go to Mantash, and again they all have scarves reflecting Palestine. Again, the ANC solidarity with the people of Palestine. They've been unequivocal about their position and where they stand, and that's kind of what you're continuing to see in this moment. And of course, as happy birthday blurs on here in the stadium.
All right, today, an important day. It's just the first of many this year. Tell us what we can expect.
Absolutely. It's an election year, my favorite time of year. An exhausting year, but a busy year. EWN will be everywhere, starting with all the starting actually with registration weekend, Jen. On the 3rd and 4th of February is the final registration drive again. You love the status quo, fantastic. Go register and vote. If you don't like
Yes.
it, go register and vote. That's the opportunity.
Absolutely.
One more window coming up, and you can do it online with the IEC as well. And then on the 8th is the last State of the Nation address by President Ramaphosa for the 6th administration, because Parliament will close. And between May and August, we'll obviously have elections. But in between then, in February, there's a ton of manifestos. Focus on those, because that's where we'll figure out what these parties have to offer. 10th February, EFF. 17th February, the Democratic Alliance. 24th of February, you've got the ANC. ANC and EFF and KZN. DA is in 20. IFP will be back in KZN. And as I said, we will be all over all of those. In fact, manifestos start with the Rise Mzansi new players are also picking their space, trying to sell you their vision ahead of the elections. So we'll be everywhere, trying to bring you what's on offer ahead of the elections.
And possibly one of the most exciting and important elections, right, coming up at the moment. I mean, for the history of South Africa, this is
30 years.
We're going to see
I
something.
think we don't celebrate that enough because there's so many problems. Shane, my gosh, 30 years. I, as a black woman sitting here with you, for me, it wouldn't have been if we didn't have 30 years of democracy. So I personally celebrate 30 years of democracy. Do I want more? Absolutely. Right. We deserve more as a country. And it's a time for a lot of reflection, but a lot of thinking about what it is that we want as a country. Where do we go next? And we start moving and taking the necessary steps towards that. I think, 30 years is a thing. Can't wait for April to mark 30 years. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I think we should leave it on that poignant note and the importance of youngsters and all of us to get to the polls
Let's
and
go
vote.
to the polls, guys.
Let's go to the
Please,
polls.
let's vote.
Thank you
Vote
for joining
for
us.
South Africa, yeah.
Thank you, Sidi.
Thank you, David.
Happy birthday to you. A happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. ANC, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Amanda, Ndarema Shatile. Ndarema Shatile. Uzawubulela abantu, uzawubonga abantu, utlalebuha abantu, utakhenza banu, utakhenza banu. Okay.